All right, welcome back. Today, we are diving into something really fascinating, wound healing. And specifically, we're going to talk about one single critical ingredient that often means the difference between a wound that heals up nicely and one that becomes a chronic, nagging problem. It's totally invisible, it's all around us, and yet without it, our body's most amazing repair systems just grind to a halt. Yep, we're talking about oxygen.
So, let's just start with this question right here. What is that one invisible ingredient? The thing that separates a wound that heals up from one that just never does? You know, the kind that sticks around for months, maybe even years? The answer to this is, well, it's the key to this entire explainer.
You know, when you think about some of the toughest wounds for doctors to treat, things like diabetic foot ulcers or pressure sores, you have to wonder, what do they all have in common? Well, it turns out it's often just one single missing element that completely sabotages the whole healing process. Okay, so let's get into it. The villain of our story actually has a name. It's called hypoxia. That's the clinical term for when the oxygen just runs out, right where the body needs it the most. So we're going to break down exactly what that means and how it completely derails the healing process.
So, what exactly is hypoxia? Well, to put it simply, think of it like an oxygen drought, but happening at the cellular level. It's a state where your tissues are literally starved for the oxygen they need just to function, never mind trying to pull off the huge task of rebuilding damaged territory. And what's so fascinating here is how specific the science gets. I mean, researchers can actually measure oxygen levels in tissue, and they found a critical tipping point. It's 30 millimeters of mercury. When the oxygen pressure in that tissue drops below that number, healing doesn't just slow down, it stalls. It's like a point of no return for the body's repair crew.
So how does a wound even get to this hypoxic state? Well, it's usually not just one thing, it's these underlying issues. You've got poor circulation, ischemia, which means oxygen-rich blood just can't get there in the first place. Then you've got swelling, which literally squeezes the blood vessels shut. Persistent infections are a huge one. They consume tons of oxygen, basically stealing it from your own cells. And yeah, lifestyle choices matter too. Something like smoking directly cripples your blood's ability to even carry oxygen.
And this is where things get really serious. See, a lack of oxygen isn't just a single problem. It's more like the first domino to fall. It triggers this whole cascade of failures that starts shutting down the body's essential healing machinery, one system at a time. Okay, first up, energy. You gotta understand, healing takes a ton of energy. Our cells produce this energy in the form of a molecule called ATP. And guess what the key ingredient is? Oxygen. With plenty of oxygen, they're cranking out massive amounts of fuel. But without it, ATP production just plummets. The whole healing project runs out of power. It's like the lights go out on the construction sites.
All right, next let's talk about the actual physical structure. Think of collagen as the steel scaffolding for building new tissue. Well, oxygen is absolutely essential for a chemical step that cross-links all those collagen fibers, making them strong and stable. So in a hypoxic wound, the body can still make collagen, but it's weak, it's unstable. It's literally like trying to build a foundation with wet spaghetti instead of steel rebar. The whole structure is faulty right from the get-go.
Okay, now for defense. How do we fight off infection? Our immune cells, especially these guys called neutrophils, have this incredible weapon. They use oxygen to create what's called an oxidative burst. And honestly, it's like a microscopic bleach bomb that they just unleash to destroy bacteria. The catch? This whole process is 100% oxygen dependent. No oxygen, no bomb. Our soldiers are basically disarmed. And that's when bacteria can form these protected little communities called biofilms, and the infection just hangs on. And this is where we see a really fascinating paradox. A little bit of hypoxia can actually trigger the distress signal to build new blood vessels. That process is called angiogenesis. It's like the body is calling for help. But, and this is a huge but, to actually build those new supply lines, to make them strong and functional, you need plenty of oxygen. So without it, it's like the construction crews show up for the job, but they have no materials to actually build anything. So, okay, we've met the villain. We've seen all the damage it causes. The big question is, how do we fight back? Well, this brings us to the therapeutic counterattack. These are the strategies that modern medicine uses to break that vicious cycle of hypoxia and finally get healing back on track. And look, first things first. Before you can even think about any fancy advanced therapies, you absolutely have to address the root cause.
That means restoring blood flow, right? Revascularization. It means controlling the swelling that's choking off those supply lines. And of course, getting any infection under control. This is the foundation. You have to fix the plumbing before you can even think about turning the water back on.
Okay, so once that foundation is solid, then it's time to call in the reinforcements. You've got therapies like hyperbaric oxygen or HBOT, which basically supersaturates your entire body with oxygen. Then there are topical oxygen therapies, which are kind of like putting a tiny oxygen mask right on the wound itself. And we even have these incredible new dressings that can slowly release oxygen right into the wound bed. Each one is just a different tool to get that critical resource delivered right to the battlefield.
So, after going through all of this, what's the most important message? What's the key takeaway here? What really is the true path to healing one of these difficult hypoxic wounds?
Well, it really comes down to this one crucial point. All those oxygen therapies we just talked about, they're powerful tools for sure, but they are adjuncts. That means they're helpers. They're not substitutes. They're designed to support the healing process after the fundamental problem, the lack of blood flow or perfusion, has been fixed. They're not magic bullets. They're just one important part of a much bigger strategy. And that really leaves us with a fascinating thought for the future. So far, we've mostly talked about treating wounds that have already become hypoxic. But what if we get even better at this? As we develop new, more targeted ways to deliver oxygen right into tissues, could we one day identify at-risk tissue and step in proactively, actually preventing these chronic wounds before they even have a chance to start? It's a really powerful idea, right? And it's one that could truly change millions of lives.